All right, Jeff, Jeff Marcoux, I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you today. I really enjoyed our conversation at the Serious Decisions conference earlier this year, and I'm excited that you agreed to talk to the AirStack audience of technologists and senior leadership that are all trying to use technology to drive growth in their business. So thank you, and please take a moment to introduce yourself and TTEC.
Yeah, well, hi, I'm Jeff Marcoux. Thanks for having me. It's great chatting and Serious. So excited to kind of bring this to your audience here. I lead product strategy and product marketing at TTEC there. And what is TTEC is a question I get a lot. I left Microsoft after 5 years to go join this company because we were really, what inspired me about TTEC was we were founded under one guiding principle, which was around the idea that customer experiences that are simple, inspired, and more human deliver better value for everyone, brands and consumers alike. And so that was really kind of what inspired me to move to TTEC from Microsoft. Was our company going through digital transformation right now, and as a marketing leader, having the opportunity to really drive that transformation is a pretty lucky experience. I was a part of it at Microsoft, now a part of it here at TTEC. So what do? We are a global tech and services provider that really focuses on the design and implementation of customer experiences for a lot of the world's biggest brands. We've got a center of excellence we call TTEC Digital, which is focused on designing and building tech-enabled, insight-driven experience solutions, so contact center software, analytics platforms,
cool.
Those kinds of things in there, journey orchestration work, all of that kind of stuff. And then in our Engage side of the business, TTEC Engage, that's really it's where we deliver customer outsourcing through operational excellence for a lot of the world's biggest brands. Chances are you've actually talked to our employees. We've got over 50,000 employees across the globe. We handle over 3.5 million interactions every single day, and
Wow.
we manage over 200,000 agent desktops across the globe. So to give you kind of an idea of the breadth and scope, we're a company not a lot of people have heard of before, but we drive the customer experiences for a lot of the biggest brands that are out there.
You're like 3M.
Kind of, actually. It's a great way to put it.
This is great. So, this series, it's all about, technologists being able to learn from each other and how they're managing their tech stacks. I mean, tech stacks are, for many organizations, it's a puzzle, and there's too many pieces, and they don't have enough players, it can really be something that people are proud of and what they've accomplished, which when I first met you, that was my takeaway, is that you've done great things with your tech stack. But a lot of people are frustrated, and even in some cases have regret how much time and money has been invested in their technology. So could you share maybe, one big priority for you and how you're aligning your teams and technology to achieve that?
Yeah, for us this year, some of the biggest priorities that we're looking at right now, from a TTEC perspective all up, is how do we really create, so before we rebranded in January from Teletech to TTEC, and we were 4 business units operating under different P&Ls, basically completely in silos ahead of it. And now we've got this new vision, this business priority around one TTEC and bringing everything that we have to bear. But that also means marketing has to align to that as well. Mm-hmm. We're focused on global expansion right now. We operate in 6 markets globally right now, but we want to go more and more aggressively around that. So from a marketing perspective, there's really kind of 2 key areas, I'll say 3 actually, that we're focusing on as we're in Q4 heading into 2019. Mm-hmm. The first is around getting a global demand center up and running. I know we'll talk tech stack here in a little bit, but we have a lot of the right tools, but they haven't been implemented in a way, or they're not being utilized in a way that's really focused on global execution, global demand center concept. It's a concept I'm very fond of, and I think it works really, really well when looking at how do you deal with channel partners, how do you deal with geos and field marketing, and how do you make corporate work for the rest of the business. So global demand center is one. Number two is really around our sales enablement tools. So looking at this and kind of saying, how do we more effectively, right? Most marketers have this struggle. How do I actually effectively get my content off the shelves into my sellers' hands in a way that they can actually use? And so we're really taking a look at some of those, and how do we gather more data and insights back from those sales interactions. Like many companies, right, we use Salesforce, and it's a system of record, and it's really more of a stick than a carrot right now. And that's a big thing that we want to change in the coming year. And I'm looking at a tech solution to help with that transformation right now as we're going through that. But that's really a big one. How do we better enable our sales team outside of having, asset libraries and SharePoints and things like that, where sales sometimes goes, but not always, or very rarely, let's be honest. Right. And the last thing for us is a theme that's that I've carried forward a lot in a lot of the work that I've done, is how do we maximize what we've already invested in? I teach marketing also for Oregon State University and UC Irvine. Cool. Nice. And one of the it's a fun passion area of mine, because I think marketing is becoming a little bit more of a trade. And a lot of the MBAs and undergraduates I get that come out have never run a social campaign. They don't know what content marketing is. So it's an area I spend my time trying to help transform the industry there. But one of the things that I found through the teaching and consulting and the work that I've done as a marketing leader is a lot of brands have made the right investments, but they're utilizing maybe 60% of the functionality of the platforms they've invested in. And so there's a lot more that they could get out of them, versus usually what happens in the marketing teams is they turn around and they say, oh, well, I need that new tool. And the answer, if I'm a CFO, is have you maximized the value of our previous investment? Now, there's some things obviously you want to reach out for and grab and move forward in your strategy, but at the same time, really focusing on maximizing the value of the investments that you've made is kind of that third priority. So global demand center, sales enablement tech, and then maximizing our current investments.
All right, let's talk tech stacks and how you're going to get there.
So this was I put this together for Serious Decisions, and this gives you an idea of our tech stack. There's probably a few things here and there as we're looking and adding different things, but really we started right with our foundation. What do we have? So foundationally, we have Salesforce and we have Pardot. We've had Pardot for a long time. I'm actually excited with how that product's maturing. I think for a long time, Pardot was kind of seen as this kind of the poor man's marketing automation solution, and everybody wanted the Cadillac, which was Marketo. But Salesforce has definitely made a lot of strong investments in that area right now. And to the end, to kind of my third theme that I brought up was, how do you maximize the value of the tool that you've already got in place? And so from a Pardot perspective, since I've come in TTEC, the team and myself have really started pushing things, and they sound pretty simple, but again, transformation, actually getting nurture emails and branching emails and personalization in emails done, dynamic content, progressive profiling, UTM parameters. So really just even bringing back some of the basics that we weren't really maximizing our utilization of before as a part of that. So that's kind of our foundation. Then we have our productivity tools. We recently made the jump from Slack over to Microsoft Teams. We went all Microsoft 365. I have to say, as a Microsoft former Blue Badge employee, I definitely enjoy it and definitely get a lot of utilization out of it. We use Zoom for a lot of our meetings and our webinars and things like that. So really that productivity layer, it's important. If you don't think about it, you will get into trouble there. Right. Then it's really easy to start going up, but into kind of the strategy and all those other things. But I feel like going back down into the measurement side has been really, really important for us. We had some segments that were really good at tracking ROI, and we could actually show with some of our account-based engagement strategies, for every dollar we were spending, we were generating over $100 in ROI. Really,
Wow.
really powerful,
That's incredible.
tightly connected inside sales. Yeah, the numbers there are phenomenal. But other parts weren't really as accountable, and that was simply often due to data. Right? Campaign dollars weren't being put into Salesforce. Contacts weren't being tied to campaigns, right? And so some of that's just culture and structure that we've been working on this year to get in place so that in 2019, our execution's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So measurement's been really, really important. So we have our own homegrown system, the Humanify operations platform. That's how we measure all of those 50,000+ employees across the globe. Are we delivering for customers? Are we hitting their expectations? And very often we can use that for kind of insight on what else should we sell them, right? Is a core component of that. Google Analytics is the obvious one. I hope everyone who listens to this has that on their site at a bare minimum. Salesforce obviously is a part of that from our reporting structure and getting that set up properly for tagging and tracking. As we go through that, Power BI is our data visualization tool around that front part of the 365 stack. And then we have our Insights platform, which is really the Humanify Insights platform. It's designed against the Microsoft Common Data Schema that they released not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually enables us to ingest data from pretty much every logo you see on here into a common data schema, which then we can do machine learning on top of to start looking at things like next best action, next best offer, what are the right channels to reach out in. So we're starting to get a lot more advanced on that side of it as we go through there. So the measurement perspective and layer there has been something we've been working on really heavily this year. And we're in a good spot here in the Q4, kind of putting some bows on some things and really excited about that as we head into next year. Now for the part that most people think about and find interesting is kind of everything above, right? It's very much so around that execution world. So we use, from a strategy perspective, I had the fortune of getting in early and being an alpha customer for a new service by InsideView called Apex. And it's been actually really, really nice for us. From a product strategy perspective and a product marketing, I can actually go in and look at the real total addressable markets for my products and for products that we're thinking about bringing to market and saying, oh, there's actually, 1,257 companies that fit our profile that we think we could sell this to. And those are all named and I can say who those are. So that's been really helpful because before that, we kind of fell into the bucket. You go to, Gartner or Everest or any of the big analysts, right, that are out there and you'd say, oh, look, here's your CAGR. Here's, the size of the market we expect that to be. It's this many billion. Well, that doesn't actually help you. In terms of really building a go-to-market and a product strategy around that. So that's been really, really key for us is getting that in place and utilizing that to fit, to build out that strategy. Then we're partners of EverString actually. And so we deploy this fit, intent, engage, and then execute layering as we kind of look at our go-to-market. So fit, we use EverString to really go through and say, out of all the companies, right, here are the ones that are the best fit for us to go after. And we cross-check that against InsideView as a part of that to make sure that those align. But we use that EverString modeling as a core part of that. Then we've now introduced the Bombora intent data.
Right.
And so for those who aren't familiar with intent, this is essentially, Bombora was really smart back in their day of getting their cookie and tracking on sites that no one could get their stuff on nowadays. So it's a pretty unique data set from that perspective. And so we combine those two to say, okay, here's the world, here's those that fit. That we should sell to, and we do that by product, which is actually really nice. And then out of those, here are the ones that are actively in the market to buy our solution. Well, that lets us really get laser focused. We need to get better at being a lot more aggressive and acting on those scores as they come in. So that agility is a big thing we're focusing on for this next year. But that intent data tells us really who to zero in on. Now, that's not to say that we're not looking at, broad scale air cover marketing, that we're not looking at, competitor takeouts, that we're not, or there's the general marketing world that we look at there. but we're trying to get a lot more sophisticated with right where we send our dollars as a part of that. And then we finally actually have the area that a lot of people care about, which is that engage area, right? So our marketing automation platform is Pardot. We obviously use Facebook ads, we use LinkedIn ads, we use Google AdWords, we use Terminus for account-based engagement. So when we use this a little bit uniquely when it comes to pipeline velocity and acceleration, as well as account-based marketing. So when I get the fit and intent data, I can then target based on the product who are the personas that we want to hit and with what ads. And so that's where we're bringing Terminus to bear on that front right now. Our CMS Drupal on the backside there, Zoom obviously for webinars, Sprinkler from a social perspective. And then we do a lot actually with direct mail, but we do it ourselves. We don't use a vendor like a PFL or any of those guys.
Cool.
Not because we don't find value in them, but our particular strategy that we've taken around direct mail it doesn't require it. I'll put it that way. But that's one of the ones where we're seeing that huge ROI right now.
So Jeff, you mentioned earlier machine learning, and I know you've got a slide of kind of what's on your radar for future things that you're tracking. Let's talk a little bit about that. I want to see what's in the mind of Jeff for the future.
So I mean, a couple things that I'm definitely watching. I have a phrase, I won't take credit for coming up with it, but I definitely say it probably the most out of everyone I've run across, but disrupt yourself before you are disrupted.
Yeah.
There's a great HBR idea cast on a concept in a book called Dual Transformation, which is what most of our companies are going through. How do I defend and protect my core business while disrupting myself with the new, right? How do I not become Blockbuster, right? As a core part of that. Right. And so one of the big things I look at is always what's on the horizon, what's coming, what are the future disruptors that either I can capitalize on or I need to defend against. A few in the marketing world that I'm watching right now are really the Microsoft Open Data Initiative that was just announced last week with Adobe and SAP and Microsoft on that front. We're already capitalizing on some of that ahead of it with the common data schema and some of the work that we're doing on that side. But really, I want to see how that matures. And Microsoft Dynamics AI was a new thing that was announced also. So I'm watching that one to see kind of that Salesforce Microsoft races. It feels like it's heating up, if I'm very honest. The recent acquisition of Marketo by Adobe, that's definitely something as a marketer I'm keeping my eyes on. And what is that going to mean? Because that's really Adobe making a jump into the B2B space. I mean, they thought they were there before, but with the Marketo acquisition, they're definitely there to play now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to watch that one and what matures in that area. From a tech perspective, kind of what's on the horizon, these are really the ones that I'm keeping my eye on. So 5G is not far away. It's going to come really, really soon.
That's huge.
And so we're going to get to this hyper always on connectivity. And the research right now, I think we're a little farther out on it, but really around wireless power is, again, not going to be that far out. So I'm going to have always on, always connected around kind of everything with me. And so one of the big things that we're taking a look at there and kind of looking at is, okay, now IoT is really coming into the mix around that, always on, always connected. One of the big things I'm kind of watching from a brand perspective that's really interesting is right, these voice assistants, and all this actually starts to tie together as we look at that of we as humans don't actually like to make decisions. We like things that automatically come back to us. There's some aspects around psychology in that. So do I really care about my peanut butter, right? As I take a look at that. And so as these things start to come together, well, my peanut butter might have an RFID chip in it that is always on and always connected. And when it detects it's running low, it's automatically ordered. Or I'm going to say, hey, Alexa, I need more deodorant, right? Or whatever that looks like. Or frankly, my deodorant might have, an IoT chip in it. How do brands break into that, right? If the default is Old Spice and the default is Peter Pan, how does a brand now break into that as we go through that? And so that's a really interesting and pretty big threat on the horizon for a lot of companies there is how do you break through the good enough the fact that people, they want it to be organic and that's all they care about, right? Or whatever those key things are, but they don't care enough around it. We're seeing this with the subscription economy, right? With Dollar Shave Club, Stitch Fix. I'm a big fan of Quip, the toothbrush, right? They send me my toothpaste and my brush every 3 months. And it's great. I don't have to think about it, and I don't really care enough to think about it.
Right.
As we go through that. So all of those are really going to come around. What's also interesting is I think Google is going to get disrupted here with voice assistants. If you think about it, you're not going to give me an AdWord through Google Home, right? So
right.
That would be incredibly disruptive. So YouTube, sure, that makes sense. They'll still be making money there, but search is going to move predominantly to voice, is my hypothesis.
Interesting.
As we go through there.
Yeah.
So again, hyper disruptive, especially for Google, but also for us marketers, right? We've been doing AdWords and things like that for a long time. Are people going to keep doing that? Probably for a while. We'll see a behavior shift, probably generationally here, but that is on the horizon at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, other ones in it, right? Hyper personalization, now that we're really getting to unlocking data silos and right, this always on IoT is going to take that to the next level. I'm a big fan of AR versus VR, candidly. I think AR is going to win out. We're already seeing it with, right, the new iPhone X, S
right.
and Max there of bringing that into people's homes. I think the glasses will get smaller. I think in our business, right, remote experts and applying some of those things are really interesting. Around that, actually, the part of the Microsoft Dynamics AI stuff they came out with showcases some of what I'm guessing is going to come in, where, I can either have a truck come and fix your washer for you, or I can send you the kit and you put on the goggles and I walk you through how to fix it. I think we're going to start seeing more of those types of things come up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, instant fulfillment, we're already seeing that with Amazon and delivery within an hour, but drones and 3D printers are really growing. You can now 3D print food and things like that, right? So
it's
that's
real.
all coming.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I'm looking at CX 2030, and it's amazing that you're thinking out so far ahead. I look forward to to sharing this with the AirStack community once we get that off the ground, and really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and always happy to chat.
Appreciate it, Jeff.